Okay. So let's get to something that I want to ask you about. You showed me these mailers, and let's just go through it so people, anyone who listens to this, will know if this is really who you are as a candidate. I know it's hard out there in the buzz of social media to wade through truth, but this flyer says this is who George Mumma is. Unhinged attacks on gay people. Mumma hates gay people so much that he attacked the suicide prevention hotline for advising gay teens not to kill themselves. For one, explain that, because that just sounds erroneous. That doesn't seem possible to me.
Well, it is shocking, Michael. I had a number of gay folks working for me at the police department, and we had a great relationship. They were some of the hardest working folks that I dealt with. This comes about because I was asked to talk about what's going on with a particular suicide hotline that was not in House District 25. The issue became the folks that were doing the hotline were not vetted. The training was limited, and most of the folks there had other prior mental health issues of their own. When I was doing crimes against children cases and working the internet, the biggest common denominator from our victims was it was a trusted adult who assaulted me. My only thing with that whole piece that they are attacking me on is what's the training, who determines whether you're a trusted adult or not, and were the parents informed that this child was speaking to you? And that was mainly what I was after. I never attacked anybody on that. It was merely, if you're going to go down that road, then you need to make sure you have the services, and we need to have somebody vet you. We have services in Colorado that you can use. Why you would want to use this one particularly is anybody's idea. I don't know.
Gotcha. So, for the record, you don't want gay teens to kill themselves. That even sounds ridiculous on its face to say.
Well, it's a little bit alarming. Having done 45 years in law enforcement, I dealt with a lot of different cases. Most of my work was with kids. And I can't tell you how many nights I spent in a ward with a kid that we took in there that needed somebody, and we couldn't find a parent at the time, and we stayed with them. And I stayed with a number of them. So that one's a tough one to stomach. But this is the way politics is played.
Gotcha. Well, since we're on that topic, why don't you tell everybody what you did to make sure children who got into trouble had a safe pipeline to keep them out of jail and get them back on the right track?
Well, one of the things we did, we built a juvenile assessment center, and that's why I was hired by the district attorney's office in the early 90s. The idea behind an assessment center was to bring law enforcement, mental health, human services, and the school district together, share our information on these kids, work in the best interest of the kids and what their needs were. And we did that. It took time to get everybody together to make it happen. But once everybody was communicating, we were able to deal with all these kids' issues. An actual drawing that my DA gave me at the time, and he was a Democrat, Dave Thomas. He brought a drawing to me and said, this is what it's supposed to look like. And it was like Arby's, where you drive in with this kid that needed help, and you'd handle through the window. When you drove around the other side, they would hand this kid back to you all fixed. That's not exactly what we did, but we did assist a lot of kids and a lot of parents in making positive things happen. I'm reminded of a case, I'm trying to think, probably 16 or 17. It was before I left the district attorney's office to be a chief of police. But what happened was I had a lot of kids sexting. So instead of Playboy magazines, they were sending naked pictures of one another. In the state of Colorado, that's sexual exploitation. It's a felony 3 crime. If you're convicted of it, at the time, you'd be a registered sex offender for the rest of your life. Well, I had a 14-year-old female who was sending naked pictures, and I reached out to her and offered her a program with the Juvenile Assessment Center to keep her from having that happen. And I was so upset with the way that was going that I wrote a new law to change the sexting statute to a misdemeanor, where we could do an educational component and send these kids back out. So essentially, by sending the naked pictures, you were felony stupid. But by going through the class, we could fix things up, give you some education about the woes and the issues with the internet and with the phones and all that, and send you back out, and life would go on, rather than you being a registered sex offender and have to deal with those issues. It was a bipartisan piece of proposal that I put down there. It passed. It wasn't perfect, but it got us to the misdemeanor, which was what my goal was. That parent reached out to me last week. She's actually on the website because her kid has been very successful since that happened. That's what it's about, is working down the road in the best interests of all kids. And that's what I did my whole career.
Gotcha. So safe to say that that flyer is not characterizing you accurately.
Correct.
Let's see what else it said. Now, there was another one on there I was really curious about. Mumma is backed by an extreme anti-abortion organization that wants government to interfere in women's private medical decisions. Do you want government to interfere in anyone's medical decisions?
No, I do not. And actually, here in Colorado, the folks in this state voted that you can have an abortion the day of delivery. And that's what the people said. And that's what we honor. And as legislators, that's the road we go down. Now, is that my personal opinion? No, but that's not what I'm being tasked with. Am I going to reverse it? Nope, I'm not. So where you come across with those kinds of things is tough for me, having worked in the field that I've worked in with all people.
Sure. Yeah. And it sounds to me like, I mean, these probably feel a little personal, these attacks. How are you, I mean, really, how are you dealing with it? Does it bother you? Do you lose sleep, or do you just want to clarify the record and move on?
Clarify the record and move on, Michael. I've been called a lot worse in my career. So, I mean, it's frustrating if you spend some time, look at my record, and even if you looked at the website intently enough, you'd see the things that I've done, and you'd hear from the folks that I touched. But politics is about attacking the other person. Unfortunately, we're spending a tremendous amount of money across the country attacking one another, where those funds could be used for something positive rather than the things we're using it on now. I guess that's my real frustration with the whole thing.
Sure. Did you expect that when you got into the race? Kind of figured it'd be that way?
I was told that if I got over the target and the race was getting close, that I would not recognize myself by the end of the race. And actually, I'm starting to believe that.
Got it. Do you know the groups that are responsible for the mailers and things?
The one that is attacking me the most is out of Washington, D.C.
Okay. So that's kind of telling.
Nah, it is what it is. I guess when you get into politics, this is the way it's played. You know, all those years that I served my community, being called names and all those kinds of things, we could always get down, even with the bad guys, and we could always talk about what had just happened. I'm reminded of a number of cases where we could meet these guys on the street and they'd go, "Hey, remember me? You remember that one night?" But this kind of stuff is just a little bit uglier than what I anticipated.